Chicago has suffered an irreplaceable loss that no amount of tax breaks or official statements can undo. The mayor is outraged, not over a routine corporate choice or a hunt for lower costs, but because this departure lays bare, in the bluntest and most embarrassing manner, the damage caused by decades of flawed governance, surging violence, and unchecked political hubris in one of the nation's iconic cities. This is unfolding right now, and if you believe it ends with McDonald's iconic logo vanishing from the scene, you're not keeping up. Because the fallout ahead should alarm anyone invested in the fate of America's major cities. Welcome back to the channel, where we slice past the noise, track the dollars, and voice the truths that mainstream coverage dodges. I'm your host, and delivering sharp, investigative takes like this is our weekly mission. New around here, smash that subscribe button. It won't cost you a dime, and you'll stay in the loop on stories like this. Drop a like if you feel companies ought to be free to relocate without sermons from the very officials who push them away. Leave a comment with your take on this straightforward question: can Chicago turn things around, or has the point of no return already passed? I read every response, and they count. Go ahead and share this video. The tale we're diving into reaches far beyond one burger chain, and more folks deserve to hear it. Let me lay out the central points straight. McDonald's didn't abandon Chicago on some vague executive impulse or arbitrary property math. This is a straightforward tale of consequences. When a leading U.S. city hikes expenses, permits chaos, piles on rules, and then feigns surprise when the firms that defined its character finally reach their limit. Forget partisanship, this boils down to numbers. It's the stark, logical equation run by every finance chief, board member, and location expert. Does remaining here deliver more benefit than burden? Chicago didn't solve that equation. Today, we'll trace the finances, the chronology, the choices, and crucially, who bears the real burden when those famous arches fade from the horizon. To grasp why McDonald's ultimately opted to leave its long-time Chicago base, look beyond the headline, trace it to the slow erosion that began undermining the city's bond with its biggest corporate players. For years, McDonald's ran its operations from Oak Brook, Illinois, a western suburb boasting a massive campus that stood as a business icon. Then in 2018, amid loud cheers from then Mayor Rahm Emanuel, the company shifted its worldwide headquarters into Chicago's West Loop district. The city went all out: tax increment financing offers, vows of neighborhood renewal, and bold claims that Chicago was emerging as the go-to spot for corporations. Vibrant, inclusive, forward-looking. McDonald's bought in. They poured money into a fresh headquarters facility, channeled thousands of well-paid office positions into the urban core, and for a brief window, it appeared like true mutual success. Pause and absorb that. Chicago worked tirelessly to lure McDonald's into the city center. Yet barely 8 years on, the company is gearing up to depart. Next arrived the mounting strains that no polished announcement could gloss over. Chicago's crime figures, drawn from official, publicly available reports, started painting a picture impossible for corporate human resources to brush aside. For a firm with thousands commuting into the downtown area, personal security isn't optional, it's a core business factor. Staff voiced growing worries, hiring turned tougher. The appeal of "join us at our central Chicago office" now came with an unspoken caveat no recruiter wanted to address during interviews. Simultaneously, Chicago's budget was worsened. Hitting businesses directly, the city faced pension shortfalls deemed disastrous by any credible financial analysis, unfunded liabilities climbing into tens of billions across municipal retirement systems. In other words, the bill was coming due, and the easiest target politically was always a prominent company with a visible presence and deep pockets. Talks surfaced about broader corporate levies, a municipal transaction tax, widened commercial property assessments, fresh charges aimed squarely at big employers. None of this was hidden, and it registered loud and clear with McDonald's strategy and finance groups. Picture it: as CFO of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, you're based in a city openly debating ways to pull more funds from businesses precisely like yours. What's your next step? Consider the key metrics driving any major location call. After McDonald's downtown shift, Chicago posted homicide counts that ranked it near the top for violence among major developed world cities. Certain years saw over 700 killings. Carjackings exploded into national news. 2021 brought more than 1,800 incidents, averaging about 5 daily. Organized flagrant shoplifting devastated shopping districts. Big chains started shuttering Chicago outlets, not discreetly, but with frank public explanations pinning the exits on theft and safety risks. The initial chain reaction hit when prominent retailers openly declared Chicago store closures: Whole Foods on the near north side, various Walmart sites, a sharply reduced CVS network. No glossy economic promo could offset that message. Operating here had grown fundamentally unviable. In everyday terms, the added expenses for guards, ain't theft measures, higher insurance, and pay bumps to offset lifestyle drawbacks outstripped any extra income from the city center advantage. That was domino 1, domino 2. Those retail pullouts triggered what city planners term commercial desertification, accelerating business flight from an area, rendering survivors even less sustainable. Pedestrian volume plummets, nearby areas slide further, costs rise while income potential shrinks. It's a vicious cycle, and reversing once underway is incredibly hard. Domino 3, the one striking McDonald's directly, involves headquarters workplace dynamics amid a worsening backdrop. McDonald's staff didn't exist in isolation. They traveled through and worked in a place where news cycles repeatedly featured violence, budget emergencies, and company departures. Employee spirits matter. Keeping talent costs money. When rivals provide flexible remote options, suburban setups, or Sunbelt alternatives, competing for skilled people from a declining city address grows brutally tough. One often overlooked reality in these discussions carries huge weight. Chicago and Illinois have crafted a regulatory landscape that adds substantial overhead for major employers. The state ranks near the nation's highest for combined business tax loads. Its corporate income tax, factoring in the base plus replacement levies, hits 9.5%, topping most Midwest peers and well above the U.S. average. Add city-specific rules, like sharply rising minimum wages, more pertinent to stores, but sending a broader philosophical message to any firm weighing long-haul commitments. When local leaders treat big companies as revenue sources to regulate and manage politically rather than allies to attract, firms adjust their strategies. There's also the city's handling of police changes, consent agreements, and their real-world effects on safety. In 2019, Chicago signed a consent decree with Illinois requiring major overhauls to CPD training, oversight, force guidelines, and reporting overseen by an external monitor with court-backed enforcement. Progress has been gradual, disputed, and costly. Some, including inside the department, contend these restrictions helped fuel the later crime spike. Bluntly, the city was compelled to reshape policing in ways critics say weakened street safety, all while fiscal strains from pensions left little funding to support the changes properly. It's one trap stacked on another. When reports emerged that McDonald's was seriously considering moving its headquarters out of Illinois, with Texas, particularly the Dallas-Fort Worth region, as the frontrunner, Chicago's leaders reacted fast, protectively, and tellingly. Mayor Brandon Johnson, elected in 2023 on a clear progressive agenda skeptical of corporate influence and favoring bigger municipal budgets, fired back publicly. His team voiced irritation, stressed collaboration, affirmed support for the business sector, and floated incentive talks. Here's the striking twist: the very political outlook that long insisted corporations held excessive sway, evaded fair contributions, and shouldn't receive tax giveaways from cities to rich globals, now scrambled to dangle those same incentives to retain one of the planet's most valuable firms. The stance labeling corporate deals as corrupt was quietly sidelined for urgent keep-them-here bargaining. That's no small inconsistency. It's a fundamental tension in Chicago's governance and economy, and it needs calling out directly. By contrast, Fort Worth area offered the inverse math. Texas levies no state corporate income tax whatsoever. Its rules actively draw corporate moves. Local and state authorities there have a proven history of tailored incentive deals, property tax relief, job training aid, infrastructure upgrades to secure major HQs. Toyota, Charles Schwab, American Airlines, CBRE, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and many others have shifted there recently, importing vast numbers of solid paying roles. The talent base has grown accordingly. Skilled people chase opportunities. Opportunities chase investment. Investment chases welcoming policies. Infrastructure has kept pace. Commercial property thrives. And while crime exists, violent incidents don't rank as a top worry for headquarters evaluations. When McDonald's location experts compared 10-year costs of Chicago versus a Daria shift, the gap wasn't slight. For a global workforce of 150,000, 200,000, and thousands in corporate roles, even small variances in taxes, property expenses, insurance, and pay adjustments for lifestyle issues snowball into massive 9- or 10-figure savings over a decade. The numbers weren't competitive. Now consider the human side absent from executive suites and news quotes. The people who feel the fallout most acutely, often invisibly in stats. A headquarters move this size doesn't relocate everyone. Some get offers but stay put, tied by elderly parents, a partner's job, kids' schools, or home loans in areas picked for easy commutes. For them, the news isn't corporate strategy, it's major life upheaval. A family in Chicago's western suburbs who chose their house for reasonable access to the West Loop office now weighs uprooting for Texas or hunting work in a shrinking local corporate scene. Imagine a two-earner household pulling 200,000 together, raising kids, paying a mortgage embedded in their community. They're not an economic footnote, they're individuals facing gut-wrenching calls driven by policies that rendered their employer unable to stay. Then there are the local enterprises built around the headquarters' presence. Dry cleaners handling business attire, midday eateries thriving on corporate crowds avoiding in-house food, parking facilities, cafes, caterers, supply shops, venues for company events. None get moving assistance. None can relocate to follow. They're fixed in place, and when their main customer source vanishes, recovery isn't gradual, it crashes. The sandwich shop proprietor 2 blocks away, locked into a multi-year lease expecting steady headquarters traffic, receives zero compensation for lost years. Not from McDonald's, not the city, not the angry mayor. They solve it alone or shut down, costing their handful of staff jobs, cutting local spending, and rippling outward. This is how big company departures erode communities, not with fanfare, but steadily, silently, storefront by storefront. So why would McDonald's walk after such heavy commitment to the Chicago shift not long ago? Reflect seriously. Firms rarely undertake moves this enormous, shifting global command, swallowing transition expenses, opening thousands of lives, sacrificing political goodwill in a high-profile exit, unless the alternative is bleaker. The real puzzle isn't the departure, it's what Chicago did and neglected that turned staying intolerable. Who gains from McDonald's exit? Not the staff unable to move, not West Loop independence, not the tax rolls relying on corporate payments, property dues, and employee local spending. Texas gains, the Dallas-Fort Worth region gains. Rival cities observing Chicago's self-made struggles quietly refresh their recruitment materials with another marquee win. They gain. And the future, that's the concern that should haunt Chicago's leaders, because McDonald's isn't alone crunching these figures. Every major firm with a Chicago base employs location analysts. Every CFO maintains projections. Every model now includes fresh evidence McDonald's assessed, acted, and won't reverse. That normalizes the choice, lowers the stigma of leaving, weakens Chicago's hold as a prestige anchor. It's a perilous shift point. The sequence is unmistakable through escalating taxes, growing requirements, weakening safety results, and a governing stance antagonistic to corporate alliances. Chicago steadily raised operating costs and lowered the draw of hosting a major headquarters. McDonald's, having sincerely backed the downtown revival vision, tracked the trends and saw the equation reverse. Texas provided a clearly stronger setup: zero corporate income tax, attractive inducements, expanding talent, and officials eager for business. McDonald's chose logically. The mayor reacted with anger. Local firms took the hit. Workers confronted hard paths. Chicago didn't merely lose an occupant, it lost a warning sign that decline has moved from hypothetical to evident, beyond spin, and undeniable to clear-eyed observers. Here's the caution, and listen closely: Chicago isn't doomed by fate. It boasts exceptional assets, institutions, infrastructure, talent, and a Midwestern cultural stature unmatched. But none of that counts if policies make staying economically illogical for companies. Detroit once led America's wealth. San Francisco once owned innovation. Cities decline precisely like this, not in one crash, but through successive exits that feel manageable alone until their total mass tips irreversible. McDonald's departure is one exit amid retail shutdowns, resident flight, pension alarms, and a crime picture even staunch defenders struggle to justify. The issue isn't mere survival post-departure. It's whether leaders will confront this candidly and weigh if the beliefs behind these policies justify the toll on everyday residents, workers, entrepreneurs, families. So answer this in the comments immediately. If you led a company headquartered in Chicago today, would you remain, and what changes would convince you? Subscribe for weekly, no-filter, fact-based deep dives. Like the video. It helps the algorithm recognize this style of straightforward reporting. Share with anyone convinced Chicago's troubles are overstated. The Golden Arches tell their own story. Comment your thoughts, because debating how or if American cities can recover ranks among the nation's most vital discussions right now. This saga continues. The outcome hinges on whether those in charge will face it truthfully. We'll keep watching, and